is choosing your primary NAICS code so important?
So for one, your primary NAICS code is not something that you can easily change when it comes to the NAICS code associated with your company in the SAM system, particularly when you're going through your registration and you are applying through sam.gov to the DLA to get your cage code, okay? So whatever that NAICS code is, it's going to represent your company for the years to come and the growth that you're going to experience. So this is really important. So write this down. Your company's size standard is the amount of revenue, and it's typically on a trailing average, often over the last 3 years. So whatever size standard, once again, is associated with the primary NAICS code for your small business, right? If that's where a majority of the contracts and work you're going to be going after, that size standard, that dollar value is going to be determined whether you're a small business or you outgrow being a small business, at least in the eyes of the SBA. So for example, if you're in janitorial services and your primary NAICS code is 561720, if you outgrow contracts more than the size standard, say the size standard is 17 million, for example, I don't remember off the top of my head, but if you get more than $17 million coming through your company, right, then you're not going to be considered a small business if you've exceeded that, for example, a 3-year trailing average. So it's really important that you are intentional about that size standard associated with the NAICS code you're choosing primarily for your company, because it may not seem like a problem or something to spend too much time on right now, but as your company grows, you may be prohibited from bidding on contracts underneath that particular, again, NAICS code size standard if you outgrow it over your trailing average of the last few years.
What is the use of NAICS code in government contracting?
So the use of NAICS codes, North American Industry Classification System code, NAICS code, some people say NAICS code, some people say NAICS code, okay, NAICS code, NAICS, you can spell it out. It's not a government contracting thing whatsoever. For example, if you go to open a business banking account, they're going to ask for your company's primary NAICS code. Okay, so the Industry Classification System code is a way of classifying business and more specifically tracking dollars spent on goods and services throughout the period of a year to see what goods and services are being bought for that particular year, to spot trends, to spot, growing industries, to spot dying industries. And with government contracting, there is no exception. So they are tracking all of that, not just in the commercial space, but also in government contracting. And it just so happens the way that contracting procures and solicits contracts for goods and services on sites like sam.gov is one way that they track it and list it and solicit it is through those NAICS codes.
Can you change your NAICS code?
So as I already spoke to with the primary NAICS code, that code is not typically going to change as it represents your company. But all the other NAICS codes, your secondary, your tertiary, you can have a dozen NAICS codes, right? Is there too few? Is there too many? Yes. You do want to have a sweet spot. What is that sweet spot? Me, personally, I think it's somewhere between 3 and perhaps a dozen, right? When you get to like 15 or 20, people might start thinking you're a jack of all trades, master of none. But when it comes to all the NAICS codes beyond your primary, those are interchangeable. You can go into SAM, and I've got a video training for that, where you can go into the new sam.gov system with all the updates, and you can add, edit, or delete those NAICS codes based on what you are bidding on. So yeah, absolutely, you can change them. You're not stuck with those other codes, and they will and should grow as your company changes. Do not think of these other NAICS codes that are accompanying the primary in your profile as something that's in concrete, something that you need to spend months of research on because you're stuck with them once you do it. That's absolutely not the case. And as you grow, when contracts get into other business lines, those NAICS codes should change to reflect that as well.
How do you know which NAICS code to select or go after?
All right. So if you have something like an umbrella, or if you have several core areas you want to pursue, I recommend that you go to sam.gov. Okay, again, take notes, write this down. Step 1, go to sam.gov and just start with keywords. Okay, so again, we'll use the example of janitorial services. If you put in janitorial in the keyword in the advanced search in SAM, it will pull up solicitations, okay, a list of opportunities, current, past, present, if you don't use any other filters that are associated with janitorial services, meaning that keyword is listed somewhere, primarily on the sam.gov listing page for the opportunity. So what you could do is click on every single one of those for a little while if you want to do your research and see what NAICS codes they are associating with them. For janitorial, primarily they're going to use the 561720, but you can try this with other fields, other services, and other areas, and you're going to find that you're going to get a list of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different NAICS codes that by and large are representing a same or similar service. So it's not about necessarily picking or selecting based off of what the code's title is. For example, again, if you go to Google, write this down, SBA size standard table, it will pull up the 50 some odd page current updated NAICS code table from the SBA. And in that, you're going to get to see the actual code, 5, 6 digit NAICS code, the title, and the size standard with it. It's a tremendous resource. But I also have a free resource towards the end of this that can also help you get started with things like that as well. But instead of thinking that you need to know it all, basing it off of the NAICS code title, you can do this kind of proof of concept exercise, which is what I like to call, and you can work backwards from what the government is buying. Okay, you can start with keywords and see what is contracting using. Don't guess. What is the contracting officer soliciting this under in terms of the NAICS code? Then make a short list of those and then rerun the search again and see what new keywords are coming up with those NAICS codes, and then use those new keywords to plug and chug. Maybe you get a few more NAICS codes. Eventually, you're going to kind of develop an outline silhouette of the keywords and NAICS codes that are being used to primarily solicit whatever service you're looking for and accompanying services around it. And then you can move on to future exercises like doing additional research to see who's buying the most of those, but then also set up things like automated recurring saved searches to come into your inbox based off of those NAICS codes and keywords. So there's no guessing, there's no having your ducks in the row. It's just working with the real research, but it's active research, it's practice, and seeing what the reality is telling you, because it will change over time.
Can you bid on a contract if the NAICS code is not in your SAM profile?
Great question. Get this question all the time. So if the NAICS code is not in your SAM profile and you're bidding on a contract, are you going to still be eligible for award? So this is a big myth. Okay, this is a big misconception. Technically, yes. Technically, you do not have to have that NAICS code in your sam.gov profile to bid on the contract. However, there's theory and then there is practicality. For me, I've had it happen just too many times. I've won 32 contracts with over $15 million in a 5-year period in the federal space, and too many of those awards in the early stages of my experience, I didn't have those because I was also told that I didn't have to have the NAICS code. But then when the contracting officer is saying, hey, Mr. James, we're trying to award to you, but that NAICS code is not in the system, and we need to show that you are capable, because NAICS codes and your capability statement, right, your company, your offer, those are all related things. So in order to help them do their job and to prevent any sort of hurdles or objections to getting a contract award, which you work so hard to do at the end of the day, it's something that I would do every single time. Okay, I would add that in there by or before submitting the proposal. If it's not in my profile, I'm adding it. Okay, so technically you don't have to, like I said, but I've received the call just too many times, and I share the advice because I don't want the same thing to happen to you.
Do you have any practice examples to help government contractors develop a winning NAICS code strategy? So
yes, the exercise that I recommend, the second half of it is the proof of concept exercise. Again, I ask you to take notes on that, go back to that. But the first part of this is something that you can do right now, and you can go to usaspending.gov. So if you go to a website, usaspending.gov, you go to advanced search, it will pull up additional filters that you can search by, pretty similar to what you would see in sam.gov advanced search. And when you do that, you can put in a NAICS code. I recommend you do this for every NAICS code. So, once you have that short list, whatever, you can come over to USA Spending and you can plug them in one at a time and select all years and just put in the NAICS code. So if it was like all years in 561720, click run, click submit. And what that's going to do is pull up a bit of information for you. And when I say a bit, a lot. First thing is typically going to be previous contracts awarded under the NAICS code. That's cool. You can spend some time there if you want, but we're going to keep on trucking. Below that, somewhere, you're going to see agencies that have bought the most of that NAICS code. And that's going to show you who is going to be your initial biggest buyers. So for example, if it was janitorial, you may see that it's the DoD. And if you go to sub-agencies, under agencies in that filter, you may see that the Army within the DoD is the biggest individual department buyer for janitorial services. Just an example, don't have the information memorized, so I could be incorrect about that, but the steps are correct. And then if you continue to go down, you'll see other things like yearly spend, and you can break that up by quarter or by month, and you can see what quarters most of this good or service is being bought. And like I said initially, you can see who's buying the most of it and when they're buying the most of it. And then they'll also show you a really cool heat map of the United States and the territories, where you can see through the heat map where is most of this good or service being bought. So you can see what, you can see where, you can see when. And then you can take all that information to make a really informed decision around your NAICS codes to decide what you want to go after and what that plan of attack is going to be. So I hope you took notes on that, guys. Feel free to rewind. This is like literally like homework you can do right now. I have all my students do it, so this is not something to be ignored. It is something that every serious contractor must do in the space and does do in the space if they're serious. Now, guys, none of this matters. None of this really can be applied fully when it comes to the end of the day if you're going to bid on contracts, if you do not know how to write competitive, both and compliant proposals. And that's why I created GovRFP. There is so much like AI, GovCon software out in the space right now. There's ChatGPT, there's Claude, right? There's all these things, and these are great tools and resources. But even more so, guys, not less, but even more so, they are not a substitute for you being able to understand how to price and write competitive and compliant proposals to the U.S. federal government. Why? Because you can teach these tools how to do certain things, but if at the end of the day, if it's AI slop, it's something that's going to make your company look bad if you put it in front of a contracting officer. You need to know what right looks like, and that's what GovRFP teaches you. It's my proposal writing system. I've taught it to my students for years, and over this past 12 months, I refined it to a process that is more increment and simple to follow, so that you can literally go to sam.gov, find a solicitation you want to go after, and not a couple months, not a couple weeks, not a couple days, but within a couple hours, you can actually have a federal proposal. If you're new, or if you're someone who's been bidding, and you want to level up your process and your standards, the amount of complexity, comprehensiveness, and the how thorough it is going to take you to the next level, regardless of where you're at. Good news. I've set the first 3 modules to free. No credit card required. Go to GovKidMethod.com, click GovRFP, unlock free modules, and you can get started literally within the next 5 seconds. If you're at a computer or on your phone, you could do that, okay? And then, like I said, I recommend it for everybody. I've designed it for everybody. It's not just for the beginner. It is for the intermediate level proposal writer as well. So I hope you guys got something out of today's video. Winning NAICS code strategies. Do some of these steps. USA spending, the proof of concept exercise. Come back, let me know what you came up with. Smash the like button for the algorithm. If you're new here, welcome to our community. We're one of the fastest growing federal contracting platforms here on YouTube. And I like to just keep it simple. I like to give you what you need, not necessarily what you want to hear, but what really works. And sometimes it's not sexy. Sometimes it's not the most exciting thing, but it's the truth. And if you're someone who's after the truth and you want to see through kind of the fluff, people who can talk and say very little, you're in the right place. So welcome here. Consider subscribing to the channel. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching. That will do it for today's Q&A training, and we will go ahead and see you in the next one.